You want some good Google tips, ways to drive down that cost per click, ways to drive up those conversion rates, ways to drive up the ROAS. Here's some great tips that I've discovered that helps me when I'm working on my Google buys. Let's go through them now. So the first is, this is actually a rumor type situation. So objective classification. So what I do here is I usually do create without a goal guidance. The main reason why I do that is because I like having all the options. Basically, all this does is if you click on any one of these, if you do a sales campaign versus a website clicks campaign or website traffic campaign versus leads, all it'll do is just formulate the forms as you build out the campaigns, right? So it'll just have those choices available as you build it out. There used to be a big rumor that if you did sales, it would automatically tell the algorithm, okay, this guy's going after sales. We're going to automatically drive up the cost per click to, whatever, 40% because they want this person versus a website traffic person, which is a lot cheaper, right? So I think that's leaning no. I don't believe that. The only reason why is because Google's just amazingly smart now. It knows exactly what you're doing, and you'll build out the campaign and you'll tell it in anyways. Maybe before, I think a couple years ago, I would believe this more as when I did the buys several years ago. But I definitely think it doesn't really matter as much. But I'd go without. I actually do create without goal guidance. That's just something I do. I do it from muscle memory, really. The next one is conversions. So maximizing conversion value versus conversions itself. Conversions really work when you have a low price point. So if you have like a $20 price point, and then you have a whole bunch of products that are $100, that may not be the best option for conversions, right? Because you're optimizing to conversions. So think about it when you buy anything, right? Like the cheap stuff always sells the best, right? The higher price stuff, that's a little more difficult. So what you need to do is that's why conversion value is there, because that drives up that automatically drives up the ROAS. Where it gets a little more nuance is like targeted ROAS. That for that strategy, you actually aim very low, and then that you enter the auctions for the cheaper people, if you will, and that drives up the ROAS itself. I've done that personally, and that works. I'm actually do a paper on that actually, and I think that's an amazing strategy that I've done with targeted ROAS and targeted PMAX ROAS as well. For conversion value, it's a no-brainer. It'll let it just auto-optimize do that. I think that's probably your best strategy. And again, the conversions are not, you shouldn't dispel it, but it definitely only works better when you have a lot of similarly priced items versus, conversion value, because you really want to maximize your sales. You want to aim for that higher, those higher returns. Bidding. Oh yeah, this is kind of interesting. So with this, I'm not big on cost per click bid limits. The reason why is because of smart bidding. I mean, I actually expect this to go away eventually, to be honest. I think setting maximum cost per click bid limits is, I think on Google, I think they'd love to get rid of that because you have so many other options. You have broad, right? Which is kind of now turning into a big AI optimization, because as you go broad and as you look for the most efficient cost per click or cost for conversions, it's basically giving it that, because you choose broad, it's able to choose as many keywords as possible to optimize for a purchase or for a click. Right? When you use phrase match, it tightens it more, and then exact match, it really tightens it. So really, when you do broad, you're actually setting more of an AI. Just a side note. So clicks, I like to set it and see where it lands at. Usually it lands exactly where I want it, between $1 and $2. Sometimes it goes even below that if you have branded terms. BidCap cost cap, the reason why I put that here, this is actually for Meta. So BidCap is more like, say you have a 50% cost per click bid cap. So your cap, exactly what the word is, cap, is at 50 cents. So as long as you get them 50 cents or lower, you're fine. So 50 cents, say one time, two times 50 cents, three times 50 cents. But that fourth time, say it's at 40 cents. Will it fire? Yes, it will, because that's 40 cents, right? It's the bid cap. right? And so anything underneath is fair game. Even if it does 20 cents, guess what? It goes 40, it goes whatever, 50, 50, 40, then it'll probably go to 20. So even though the bid cap is at 50, your cost per click can come in at 30 cents, 40 cents, because that's just the cap. That's all it is. Cost cap is when you have, say you have 50 cents cost per click. You have the 50 cent cost per click, and you have bids that come in at, one comes in, and you set it for a week. One comes in on a couple days, some come in at $1. Some come in at 10 cents, right? So as they come in at 10 cents versus 90 cents versus $1 versus 5 cents, in the end, it evens out to an overall cost cap at 50 cents. That's how that works. So they both are kind of the same thing, really. It's potatoes, potatoes. I'm a cost cap person, but keep in mind you knew I was going to sneak something meta on here, right? Keep in mind when you use bid cap or cost cap, there's a chance, and even when you set the maximum cost per click here, or when you set a high T ROAS, when you do that, you have a solid chance of not spending any dollars, right? Because if you set your maximum bid cap too low, guess what? Or you set your targeted ROAS too high, or you set your cost per cap too low, or your bid cap too low, guess what? You just won't spend. And then that's what happens. Why aren't my ads spending? That's what happens, right? Because you didn't let the automation come in and just begin working to bring that overall cost per conversion, cost per click down. Next one. Oh, negative keywords. This is great. So I talked earlier about broad. Broad is, like I said, the new AI for Google. There's even some, I'm not a big broad guy. I'm really not. Even though I have like conversion value, etc. A lot of my clients are very sensitive to the words they target, right? They want to be only on certain keywords. So that's really more phrase. Even phrase is kind of, getting there. It's a little iffy and exact, right? So the issue here is when you say you do want to use the AI, say you want to go broad, there's two things I recommend. Do the broad, right? Do that, but then look at your search terms. Look on the back end. So say you have, this is a good example, televisions. So say you're targeting televisions, right? And that's your keyword, and you do broad. The problem with televisions is it's friggin' everything. It's cheap TVs, expensive TVs. And say you're an 8K television set brand, right? And you just want to get 8K, right? So what you would do is you'd go in there with broad, and then you'd just typically just reduce, negative keyword, all the bad, all those other terms, right? All those like cheap terms, cheap TV, sale television, all that stuff. And then you get rid of all those negative connotations that kind of are associated with cheap things, because you're your expensive premium brand, right? And those are the ones it'll automate just to that 8K television set. Why not just use exact? Yes, you should. But I would actually kind of tamper with the broad just a hair, if your client will allow it. Then on top of that, you have to look at your search term report. The search term report correlates with your keywords. So what does that mean? That means when you do a keyword like television, you could look on the back end and look at the search term report and see what keywords were correlated there, right? So did cheap show up? Well, guess what? You got to do cheap. So you got to keep checking on the back end what the search terms look like, right? Is it 1-to-1 or is it off? Is it just cheap and you don't want to be there? Now, it's kind of funny. Now, I would definitely say more of an AI hands-on approach, again, because sometimes those terms, cheap television, were you in the moment, you want a nice TV, does that mean you will buy, and just heaven forbid that happens? Well, if you set it to conversions, then in theory it should, right? But still, most clients don't feel comfortable with that. Most clients like they like to be in control of their words, right? They don't want to be associated with cheap or sale or, although sale is good, but thrifty, etc. All those kind of terms, they want to stay away from, right? It just makes sense. And also too, for your negative keywords, keep in mind you do, like I just say here, you could actually set those up, and you could actually use exact versus a phrase versus brand for your negative connotations as well when you set them up in here. This is I love this tip. So how do I normally set up my buys for success, right? When I just say you have a brand new person, right? A brand new client, nothing, zero, nada, I don't have a thing. Well, the first thing you need is a heartbeat, right? You need a campaign. You need, you just need to get traffic there. You need to analyze the traffic. You need to analyze the key, what keys, like I said, the search terms are coming up. And it's good to always look at your search terms because even with phrase, like I said, it's a little iffy unless you're doing pure exact, which I don't, you definitely need to explore and see what the heartbeat looks like, right? You have a healthy heartbeat. Is it populating, like I say, the ATC and IC, which is initiate checkout and add to cart, as well as payment method, right? So the first part I do is I start the heartbeat and I start with the keyword experimentation, the ad copy, the search term reports. Let's just start the clicks. Just start the clicks. That's all you have to do. Then after a week, hopefully, or less than that, really you should look at it right away. I mean, how are your bids, right? How are your bids? How's your daily spend? Correlate that with this middle section here where I talk about, is your ATC populating? Is your initiate checkout populating? Are you already getting purchases? Key thing. So you need to constantly analyze and optimize accordingly. Are these keywords getting sales? Is this ad set getting sales? Are you separating them out respectively? All sorts of cool stuff. And this is just search. I'm not going to even get started on PMAX because I'm already at 12 minutes. But you see where I'm going here. Remember, it's walking before you run. And then, of course, with purchases, right? You have your feedback loop. You have what's doing well. You want to correlate it back and then experiment more. That's not on here. It's really making sure that, I said the feedback loop, which is back over here to the keyword experimentation. You want to make sure you're constantly experimenting and analyzing and seeing what keywords have the biggest hand raising. Are you already getting conversions there, etc. Oh, this is a good one. Oh, I love this one. Okay, so branding terms versus non-branding terms. This is potato versus potato every single... Oh, man. I can't tell you how many times I hear on this one. I need branding terms? I recommend it. I recommend it for several reasons. The first is conquesting. You don't want somebody coming up and looking at seeing your competitors on your site. That does happen. Not as much. And actually, Google looks down on that now. Why? Because you have the ad relevancy score, you have the landing page scores, you have the quality scores that all go down when you're targeting your competitors, right? So is that a thing still? It is. I think it's good practice to still conquest your own keywords. And then you have to think too, you don't want, if you're, heaven forbid, I have a couple clients that use initials, right? They're this. When I say this, they're the 3 initials, right? Or 4 initials. You want to make sure that you're not confusing people on the initials that you have, right? And yeah, I can't really go into that client, but that does happen. So you want to make sure that you're conquesting your own terms. Also to the real estate, you want to make sure that you have organic plus paid on your search and your SERP, your search engine result page. So it's your paid plus your organic. You have full ownership of the page, my friends. Like that's no one's around you. Like you own the whole thing, right? So it's letting your organic speak and then you speak. Also, it's when I talk about sales here, it's urgency. So what do I mean by that? So say you have a sale, right? You're a fashion site like so many of my other clients, and you have a week-long sale, 48-hour sale, who knows. You want to put your terms out there as quickly as possible because with SEO, it takes weeks, right? Because that's what you're kind of doing. You're hacking the site, you're dropping those keywords. We have a Black Friday sale, we have a Valentine's Day special, we have a May special. It's only a limited time frame. By the time the SEO takes to backtrack into the brand keyword, it's weeks. Right? So you have to do those sales. Those sales are whatever, some days, some weeks, some 1 week. So that's what the urgency is there. Not to mention like the promotions, the site link extensions, all that stuff that comes with it, right? So that urgency is amazing. For non-brand, it's good for reach, right? And that's keywords that are in your category, right? Like I was talking about televisions versus this 4K brand, What are you targeting? You know, high definition televisions, etc. All these related terms that are even high quality stereos, etc. that are related to television, right? Your ROAS will be much lower because your acquisition, right? You're not retargeting. And and I almost skipped that. So with branding terms, you do get low cost per clicks and high conversions. Obviously, because people are seeking you out. They already know who you are. Acquisition, much lower. But here's the magic on acquisition. People find you on acquisition. They convert on your brand terms. Do you see the difference? So say you have high definition television or stereos or just something related, right? Or even sometimes cars, because you're trying to get this really high target, right? So you're doing like these weird, these categories, and some of them don't make sense, some of them do. But you're expanding your reach and you're getting people to go to your site, right? So when they go to your site, what happens is they check it out, and especially for more expensive stuff, they're not going to purchase on the same day. No one's going to purchase an 8K television set. And when I say 8K, I mean the def. No one's going to purchase that in one day. That's going to be something, man, you're going to be looking at for probably months. You're going to be looking at this brand. Okay, you're just looking around. You're just looking around, right? And the whole time you're being targeted with ads, right? But when you convert, you're not going to go through the same path. You're not going to say, oh, I was looking at home stereos and I just happened to get a TV, some weird TV ad, and I got it and I clicked. No. Right? You're going to go back to that brand that you know, because you're like, okay, I got targeted on this acquisition non-branded term. I went to it. Now I know the brand. Now I'm part of their ecosystem. I'm part of their email, right? So once you know that brand, it's a no-brainer. You're like, okay, I'm going back to that 8K television set. Boom. Do you see what I mean? So that's why it's good to spend in both. That's why, you need to make sure your brand terms, do have coverage. It is a best practice, folks. I've heard it all. I don't need to spend on brand, all that. Some of it's right. It depends on the client. I lean, yes, I really do. It's part of the ecosystem. It's a way to really make sure your smart funnel, and that's really what you're doing here, is working correctly between your acquisition and your retargeting of people who already know your brand, right? It's a no-brainer. It really is. That's it, folks. I think that's a good place to start. What I want to do is we have please check out our Medium page. That's really in depth. We have about 21 plus articles, our YouTube page, as well as we have a Reddit, and then we have our site, YRVDynamics.com. So please check it out. Let us know if you have any questions, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.